All right. Welcome everyone to this workshop, one of our few first workshops that we're going to have for free at the Arboretum this week. Thank you for joining us. I hope you can enjoy it this hot day and you're in a cooler room than I am. Anyways, let's get started. I don't want to take Jace much time, but if you have any questions, you please type it or text it into the chat box. And what I'll do, I'll let Jay know that you have a question, and she'll try to answer. But we will have a Q&A at the end, the last 5 minutes, 10 or 5 minutes. Anyways, let me introduce Jay so she can get started. Here we go. Jay Tian is a poet, librarian, and ecological artist. Her poetry and poems have appeared in literary journals, and academic publications. She's a grateful recipient of residency and other honors from Hedgebrook, Digeresi Resident Artist Programs, Poets House, Fine Arts Work Center, Community of Writers, and Center for Books Arts in New York City. She founded the Chaparral Canyon Press in 2016 to study indigenous knowledge, ecological practices, and bookmaking. The press has released two of her artist books, Native Songs in 2018 and Migration Songs in 2020. She feels most at home in nature. So please welcome Jay Tian, and she'll take over. Thanks, Tian.
Thank you, Miguel. It's a delight to be here. And thank you for hosting this program. I also want to welcome all of our participants. Thank you for being here. And I have learned so much from Miguel over the years through his workshops in the Arboretum about plants. I always appreciate his humor, his knowledge of science, and his wisdom. So it's really a delight to collaborate today. So I'm really pleased to be sharing three of my passions: love of the natural world, writing, and books with all of you today. Specifically, I'll just be sharing some experimentation that I have done from last summer to now by participating in three collaborative artist projects with San Diego Book Arts and several other book arts organizations. That's where I began to experiment with using colors, living colors from plants and flowers to create images. I'm not trained as an artist. I've never taken a visual art class in all of my undergraduate and graduate studies. I wish I have. If I would go back, have an opportunity to go back again, I'll do that. So keep that in mind. It's an experimentation. And I also really welcome all of your participation throughout the workshop, throughout the demonstration, and also towards the end. So please feel welcome to let Miguel know if you have questions or would like to make a comment, make a suggestion. You are most welcome to do so. Writing is important to me. I think maybe I'll start just by giving you a little background about what I call the ecology of my inspirations. So Miguel, now I'm going to share my screen. I hope everyone can see it. If you can't, let Miguel know, and we'll try to figure it out.
Okay, Jay, we can see it.
Great. So now do I do slideshow?
Yes, just click on the icon for the PowerPoint presentation.
There we go.
There it is.
Okay, great. I'm indebted to so many writers, artists, scientists, naturalists throughout my education, from my undergraduate days as an English major. The Irish poet Yeats is definitely one of the poets that I read and read again. And so I have a quote from Yeats, which still keeps me to ponder about nature, the natural world. and who we are as human beings and in relationship to the natural world. One of the principles I try to adhere to is simplicity, which is simple, being simple, which simplicity and being simple, which does not necessarily equate to easiness or lack of complexity. So the magic line here, bird nest is simple. The second line, it opens to the sky. So that's what I feel the poet teaches me, sometimes just to be astonished about the most obvious things that we may take for granted. And also the Chinese philosophy, Taoism, the deep philosophy and cosmology that's embodied in the thinking has always been an inspiration to me. Heaven, sky, and earth, people and nature are one. So we are one. In us, there are others. In others, there are us. In us, there are sky and heaven and earth, and people of all planets and beyond are one. So this teaching is still important to me. And after I came to the States, one of the profound knowledge base that I've been drawing inspiration from is Native American knowledge and wisdom and teachings. So here is all the baskets that's made by the Pomo, what we call the Pomo Indian, Mabel McKay, who is also a healer and artist. Everything that she uses to make her work comes from the natural world. Feathers, beads, shell, barks, sage roots. There's nothing that does not come from the natural world. And her art has a purpose. It's very spiritually based. And things are not made as commodities for consumption in her culture, in her practice. When she makes something, she has one individual person in mind. It has a specific use, either as a ritual, has ritual significance, to welcome a newborn, to bury the dead. So everything has a purpose. And each basket has a rule. So we don't duplicate and repeat for the mass market. And my own very grandmother, I had the good fortune during the tumultuous years of the Chinese Cultural Revolution to be spending some years of my childhood in her ancestral land in southwestern China. There I witnessed her life. So everything that she makes also comes from the natural world. Her food, her medicine, everything that she made, clothes, gloves, shoes, basket, candy, rice cake. She tended her garden, her daughters and granddaughters under the open sky. So whenever I think about interdependence, self-reliance, and how we can make something to be ecological, I also think about my grandmother and the culture that she was rooted in. So my demo is going to be primarily my experiments with plants and flowers in my attempt to learn how to put words and images together in books. And for those of you who have not extensively explored plants, myself included, I would like to share a few guidelines that I have learned from different artists. A lot of them are textile artists. I think the textile artists have been using natural materials more than the book artists in terms of creating ink, in terms of making prints, dyeing, the thread, the yarn, the wool, the cotton. So I regard them as my teachers. So always make sure that you handle plant materials with care, cover your work areas with a piece of paper, plastic, etc., so that you don't, spill things out. And also try to get to know what may irritate you, what might be toxic or poisonous, Would you be, sensitive to certain pollen, smell, etc.? So try to avoid those things. And also try to, if possible, to work in a well-ventilated area. And also, if anything happens, please be sure to seek medical advice as soon as you can. I'm going to be introducing some of the plant materials that I find in my environment. I also have been actively growing plant materials. I have taken workshops from the Arboretum. I have purchased many plants from the Arboretum. Many of the things on this table here, actually, probably a lot of them come from the Arboretum. Okay, from herbs to flowers to leaves to native plants. So mostly I use what I could find locally, and also consider what would be meaningful for you. Perhaps herbs would not be most toxic or poisonous to us. We use them in our kitchen a lot. So that's one type of material that I often explore. I would say, gosh, what would it look like? What would the color look like? What would the shape look like? Flowers, in our region, we are so blessed to be in the Mediterranean region. We have flowers, plants growing all year round. Of course, this has to do, we have to give thanks to the water that we guided from the Colorado River and elsewhere, the huge cost of environmental impact that we are creating by irrigating and supporting such a populous Southern California, but we are indeed very lucky. So it's a complex issue. Leaves, you may also know the colors from plants and leaves sometimes are also called fugitive colors that tend to fade or go away over time, or if we expose them to light over long periods of time. However, there are certain plants that retain their colors quite well if they contain the tannic acid. For example, one of our California native trees, black walnut, California black walnut contains tannic acid, as well as eucalyptus, a certain kind of sumac. So those would work better in terms of retaining color. So when you think about your project, also keep that mind frame, since colors may change, even if they may fade, they may change, they may transmute. So, but that's also, to me, what makes them interesting, because they are unique. And also, I also have been actively cultivating, trying to grow native plants. And I also learned this from, Fullerton Arboretum. Many of the native plants that they cultivate in the Arboretum, they sell in the Arboretum. So here I have a few here in my area. Hummingbird sage, black sage, purple sage, monkey flower, so on and so forth. They all make very good colors. All right, so thank you. I just wonder, does anyone have questions so far? Any urgent questions? You're welcome to ask.
No questions yet.
No questions yet. Shall we just go on then?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll just showing you some of my experiments. So there are several popular ways to extract color from prints. Cold extraction by just immersing either flowers or plants in cold water and let it stay there for a week or more until it reaches the ideal color. Or you can also boil the plants. You can soak first, then boil, which saves energy. Or you can do solar extraction. There are techniques you can find, or you can do direct printing, direct application. And the last one, direct printing, is what I'm going to focus on, which does not require anything else except plant materials, paper, a hammer, or any simple tool. uses almost no additional energy. Okay, so some of the main techniques that I have tried, either the pounding, pressing, rubbing flower petals onto paper and thread, drawing, some people use rolling pin. Actually, it's an artist in San Diego Book Arts told me, have you tried rolling pin? I said, no, so I did try it later. So just when you are doing this, don't be scared. Just relax. Follow your hands, follow your mind, follow your rhythm. So here I just collected some monkey flower and sun drops. Both of these are drought tolerant. I just start to rub them on paper. The paper is no special either, just copier paper. Look at the magnificent colors they impart. And here I was using Chinese calligraphy paper. I tested a number of plants, maybe from mint to hibiscus, to geranium, to pineapple sage. And here I started to, to do a little bit beating here. Here I left some texture from the plant material just to randomly draw in some circles, just to see what the color would look like. So these are some of my projects, kind of using a hammer to pound a flower on paper. So this is from an orange colored hibiscus. This is from a red rose. This is from hummingbird sage. And here I used a number of geraniums, just arrange them on paper. I also want to say something about paper. Please remind me if I forget. This particular paper is called Reeves BFK, which is used in printmaking, fine texture, absorbs moisture fairly well, so that's very good. Some of you have seen on the Arboretum advertisement announcement that you can use the things you create for many different purposes. Like this happened to be paper that I cut out, looks like it's going to work as a bookmark. And like I said, to me, this is a really clean way to produce some beautiful work. And after the rubbing and pounding, you can always recycle the materials. All right, so I'm going to stop share now, and if you have prepared plant materials, welcome, and paper, welcome to take them out. And I'm going to do something really strange. I'm going to, Miguel and I tested twice, but today my camera, for some reason, I can't log in. So we devised another method so that you can see my work surface. So now I'm going to disappear behind, and I'm going to try to project my screen. Tell me if you can see it somewhat all right. Yeah?
We can see it.
Okay, so I apologize for this thing, but I'm really grateful for Miguel to come up with this great idea. So first I'm going to really go over some papers. Like I said, you can just start with photocopy paper. That's fine. That's what I started with. And then here I also have some watercolor paper that's 140 pounds. I was just in a collaborative project where we create something and send it to 15 other people. And then extra strips that's cut out to make this 4x6 card, save them. There are many good uses you'll find for them. So watercolor paper. I've also just tried to use just the card that I bought at Joann's and just to pound materials on it. This is a Reeves paper, Reeves BFK, printmaking paper, watercolor paper, calligraphy. So you can do a number of things using this paper. It absorbs water really well. And that's our photocopy paper. And this is the very thin Chinese calligraphy paper. This is Japanese calligraphy paper, come up in natural and white colors. And this is simply drawing paper. I just started pounding on it. So drawing paper that you could find at Michael's Blick Arts, some more watercolor paper, So for the Japanese paper, you can find it at Daiso, which is called specialty calligraphy paper for the final versions. So it has natural color and white color. It's good to practice once. I find that it doesn't absorb water as well. So let me set this aside. And my tools, as I told you, it's very simple. I have a hammer. Sometimes I may use a stone or rock. And for people who don't want to have color on their hand, they're welcome to wear gloves. Oftentimes I just get some stains on my color on my fingers. And also this paper towel, just from our kitchen, is very useful if you want to pound brittle materials. It's good to cover it so that it doesn't splatter and get distorted, so that it won't be able to see the structure or the form. And I have a stack of them here, and some of them are already used to pound materials. Okay, so maybe why don't we just start with just testing some colors. I'm just going to be using the photo color paper, and often I use cardboard, which just recycled from the packages that arrives. So oftentimes I just cut them out, use a surface to pound things on. And then below that, I have my cutting mat, which serves many good purposes, including cutting paper, cutting board, however, always against a ruler so that it doesn't slip. All right. So let's just do some simple testing. You're welcome to just join in. So what I do is that, so today I just went out and collected some flowers. So there are different kinds of geraniums. So these three are all geraniums. Okay, so and then when you do this, you just realize there's such abundance because we really don't need much. Can you see the colors?
Yes.
Okay, so just nothing fancy, just to check it out. Hold it in your hand, and then maybe try another one, red, to see what this one looks like. Wow. And also, it's never boring because the color is dynamic.
Jay, can you lift your camera a little bit more? Just a bit.
Down or higher?
Higher. A little bit. Right there. Perfect.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this has more pink tint in it. And this one is almost all purple. So this has a plum color in it, as if, okay. So you can see, and here's, sometimes don't be afraid if it's about to dry. This is a little nasturtium flower that's about to dry. Look at that. Look at that yellow. For some other project, I have bought thread from stores, but their color is, to me, to my eyes, very static. This is very living, very varied and rich. And this is a flower, hibiscus flower, that's almost dried up. It's rolled up.
Jay, there's a question for you.
Yeah.
It says, are you wetting the geranium flower?
Am I wetting?
Yeah, are you wetting it?
No. Even
there's
though
no water involved, right?
There's no water involved, yeah. Just petal. Thank you for that question. Look at this color. It's dark purple. It's almost plum. Do you see that? I don't know how well you can see it. Yeah, so this is from a red flower. The other day, Miguel and I were talking about creating red. I have not been able to impart red from red plants and flowers, and he mentioned about cochineal, which is true. That's an insect that people use to create color, red color. So that's something I was I told Miguel, I'm not sure if I'm going to try cochineal. We'll see how things change. All right, so, and here's a little bit. This is a marigold, which has yellow and this dark orange. Look at that. And then if you like texture, you can keep some of the texture on the paper too. Small petals. Look at the rich array of colors that we have gathered just from a few petals. I'm astonished. I don't know about you, even if I'm not going to do anything, right? But then, so this experimentation also comes out of the pandemic dynamic, where last summer I was supposed to be going to San Francisco Center for Book Arts to take a couple workshops there to learn about letterpress and bookmaking, but everything was closed. So I was not able to do that. So instead, I changed my focus and just turned to everything that I have here in this environment. Letterpress, if you know, are curious, that's using a machine that's invented printing press in the 19th century. And they have been inherited by artists to create fine press, letterpress, books, poetry broadsides. It's beautiful. I have been fortunate to study that at the Center for Book Arts in New York. But then I also remember my immediate reaction. You know, I'll be working with the machine. It's expensive. At Cal State Fullerton, the art department, Elizabeth Hoster, Professor Hoster, was restoring a letterpress press, Vandercook letterpress machine. I don't know where she is now, but she's very generous in sharing her knowledge with me too in bookmaking and all of that. But then what I keep thinking, what I keep returning to, you know, all of that, you have to use a lot of equipment, a lot of resources. It's not exactly accessible to a lot of people. And also you have to stay indoors to typeset by hand, right? I love to work outdoors. And so I keep asking, how could I use the landscape? It's so full of color. How could I use some of those colors into my work? So that's kind of how I started with this experiment. So you can see what a magnificent array of colors that we have created just by a simple technique. So those of you, some of you probably are artists. You have done a lot of making, creating, designing. So you can try design in whatever way that you imagine. So this is just sharing what I have been doing. So when I was involved with this artist project, collaborative artist project, like the first one was last summer, shelter in place. We are to be creating a few artist books and mail to the other artists, then we'll be receiving. So that's when I created my books by just experimenting. That's phase one. Some of you also have seen that Arboretum says, well, if you want to create your postcards. So in January, I got a few pansies. Look at that beautiful print. Just put the flower on the card and started beading. Maybe let's try to do that. Just so I have another card here. If we are together, I'm going to ask you to choose which plants or which leaf you want me to try. Since we're not, why don't I? Do you want to make a request, Miguel? Do you want me to try something, either a flower or a leaf or anything?
Yeah, anybody has a
request?
I'll let you know, Jay.
Okay.
Pansy.
Yes, Pansy. Oh my goodness, Pansy for some strange reasons.
I
Thank you.
got
I have
another
to.
one for leaves. They're coming in.
Okay, without Pansy, could I try Geranium? Okay, let's try Geranium. Then we're going to do a leaf.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest and suggestions. So like I said, you are guided by your aesthetics. You can place it anywhere you like in whatever orientation. So whatever pleases you. So I'm just going to put it over there. And I in particular like the stem. This one doesn't have a stem, but then this does. So you can make a choice. So you have a lot of choices to make. And then I'm going to be using my paper towel. I've used this. So I'm going to arrange it so that maybe the stem comes out somehow. This geranium flower is very thin. So it would likely crumble if I don't have anything pressed under it. And this paper towel is very absorbent and soft, so it works well. And then in terms of pounding, also think about the structure of the flower. I would like to retain the stem before I start pounding and mess up the structure. So now I think one of the first things I'm going to do is try to get the stem on paper. Okay. And then I'm going to roughly trace the outline of the flower. As you can tell, this flower has darker colors and lighter colors. And that's also reflected on the paper as I did it.
Jay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we kind of lose audio, or maybe it's just me. We lose audio when you start pounding, and we can't hear what you're saying, or at least I can. I'm not sure if anyone else's experience is the same. So what I'm saying is, when you pound, we can't hear what you're saying.
Thank you so much for letting me know. I'll stop talking. So what I was trying to say is that I was trying to get the structure of the flower first, trying to get the stem onto the paper, then try to follow the contour of the petals, the outline of the flower. As we pound, we also notice the original colors. Some are lighter, some are darker, which are also reflected on the paper. And there's another device that I use. I don't seem to have it here. Is a brick, just our everyday brick. If you would like the texture to be on the paper, normally I would leave it like this, put the entire thing under a brick overnight. So the next day you peel up the paper, and then some of the petals will be attached to the paper. So you get texture too, in that sense. So since we're doing a demo, we don't have time for that. So here you can see some of the paper are going to stay on the paper if I press it under the weight of a brick or a heavy book. Now I know where my brick is. It's supporting my laptop. Because we can't, like my phone camera doesn't work. So that's where it is. Yes.
Someone's asking, how about a small rock?
Small rock would work. Yeah, small rock would work really nicely. And thank you for that suggestion. With these flower petals, yeah, a small rock would work really well. So you can see I didn't pound that hard. This paper is probably a little bit heavier. So there's not a lot of color, right? But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And also the stem is also very light. What if I change paper? If I use this calligraphy paper, which is really thin. Now let's see if there's any difference. And then a lot of the color is still on the petal. It's not being imparted. You can see. So it's not being imparted. And we can talk about this later. One of my section in this presentation is about revising, recomposing. If this doesn't come out the way you'd like, you can recompose it by adding things, by deepening the color, so on and so forth. So you can rework it. It's not the end. Okay. So what if we try a different paper? Let me see if I have a similar flower. I still have another similar flower. Exact same. How about let me do it this way? Okay, just, yeah, the inside has very rich color, the stamen, I think. So here I'm going to just pound onto the same piece of paper. I'm folding this very thin calligraphic paper in half. So we'll see how it imparts color. Different paper does have different effect. You see how much color this paper absorbs. And this you can use, this is beautiful to me. Look at the variations in color. It's never dull. It's never monotonous. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see well? So this very thin paper and this vivid, deeply colorful image. And as we said, this could be fugitive. It's also got caught on my cardboard, this color imparted onto the cardboard. And now you get a mirror image by using thin paper. So for gift wrap, for things that doesn't need to last forever, and also geranium, actually the color retains pretty well. Among the flowers, the colors that retain really well are flowers, geranium, dark colored rose, calendula. One of the flowers that I showed, this marigold. So all of these, the color return really well. So that's an example of a flower. Let's try a leaf. So leaf, I also collected quite some leaves, including the weed. So let's try an herb. So here I have sage. You can also decide how many leaves you would like to print. Just this 1 or 4 or just 3. Maybe I'll do 3. And you can decide how much of the stem you want to keep on paper. Since I'm working on this now, I'm going to use this. And also when you are working with plants, notice there's 2 sides. The back side of the leaf has more prominent veins. So normally I have that face down paper so that you can retain more of the structure. So again, you can arrange it any way you like. And to use the same technique. So here I have 3 leaves, 1 stem over here. I started somewhere in the center. So you can determine how much color you want to extract. Sage gives a lot of color. And as Miguel has taught us, composting, right? So I just collect all the leaves that I have used and put them in a little container here. And then later on, put into the compost pile. So here are two examples of a flower and a leaf. For the sage too, you compress over light. And as we notice the color, sage has a lot of brown in it. We started with silver gray, that blue green, that beautiful silver green color, which turned into beautiful brown and green, darker brown. And then if you are close to my paper, you can see the structure retained pretty well, the veins. All right, is anyone also doing this? Does anyone also have their materials with them, paper? And I think this would be just a fine piece of paper to wrap something with, right? So you can see how easy you can create your own patterns. And maybe even when I put in the book together to illustrate the native landscape, native plants, I can convert this into a digital image as an illustration for my book, because I'm trying to document native plants in our area. So those are some thoughts. So that's all testing colors, testing structures, forms, testing textures. And also what's beautiful about this, you also smell all the aroma. There's a fennel leaf, which is also incredibly beautiful. So here we're adding a little bit more. I don't know what the effect is like, what's better, what's not. But anyway, so you can see fennel is another plant that retains color really well and has very beautiful form, beautiful structure. And I have also taken some art workshops during this 1 year through Zoom. I've bought tubes of paintbrush, this and that. So this is how I dispose the colors I've used. And to me, there's advantage to this. All right. So this is one demo that I want to show you. I don't know if you have interest in looking at some more of my experimentation. What do you think, Miguel? Is anyone? What are we doing time-wise? Time-wise, what?
We got 15
These are going
minutes.
pretty fast, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We got 15 minutes. If you want to keep going with another experiment, or see if we can have some questions, I'll stop you, or we can answer them. But this is great, that ecological aspect, or more like sustainability, like you mentioned. Not only can the materials can go to the compost pile, but it's great in terms of extracting natural colors. You don't have to go buy all sorts of paint, and then you don't know how to dispose of it, etc., etc. But anyways, go ahead, Jay.
Thank you so much for that comment. Yeah, there's a purpose for each, right? Yes. And also, I think for people who have this direct lived experience where things come from nature, it's more natural. Because when I took these workshops, when I go to work with a machine, I kept thinking, are there other ways? Yes. Are there other ways?
Yes. So Jay, they're asking if you could show a rose petal, and another person said another example would be great.
Okay, sure.
So, Jay, if you just want to take the whole time, just finishing with your project, and then if questions do come up, I'll let you know and we'll stop it.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll be demonstrating a rose for sure. How about let me go back to my slide a little bit, since you will see more images.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want to give you, some of the things I'm experimenting with. I'm going to share screen. So can you all hear me, Miguel?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So starting from last summer, as I told you, I was involved in the artist book project. And our goal is to come up with books. And I've just started with playing with color in a way that you have seen, just putting strokes and lines, circles on paper. But our final goal is to make books. So this is where I started with. Then I started to draw with flowers. And I know there are artists out there, you can draw you can create so many images. So this is one amaryllis flower that's almost faded. So I just freestyle drawing on the same calligraphy paper that I just showed you. However, this I also coated with something that's called cuniaca. Later on, you will see an image of how I used it. So this is one of the books that I made by drawing, just by rubbing different plants. I think the green one could be the mint as a background, or sage. So I used rose leaf. This is a rose leaf. This could be a geranium leaf. Had two kinds of geranium flowers just to come up with these designs in accordion. So this is one of the drawings I did. I did a background color on the back side of the paper, and then I made a pocket accordion. This is a single accordion, and where I did some cutting and then used another piece of the drawing. As I said, our postcard, we just had very little color coming out. So you can always recompose. When I did this, this project for one of the collaborative projects, I started out only having these patterns. To me, it's not finished, but I didn't know what to do. So I set it aside. Then one day, all of a sudden, I saw garden sage. So I created some color here. I made this for a person who is going through healing. And I put some words. The soul dwells in living colors, is at home, and all heals. So this is for an artist who is going through healing. And here, this is an orange hibiscus flower that I pounded and pressed under a brick overnight. However, the form also doesn't completely appeal to me. I feel like it's not finished. However, look at this stamen, I think that's what they're called. So I went back to the tree and just picked up a leaf from the same tree, and I just added the leaf to the place where it's a little too much space. So instead I came up with this new design. Again, here just combining different plants together. And again, this one, the leaf, either I didn't pound it enough or whether it's too dry. So there's not much color. So here I pounded some rose petals in the middle. And here, this is a place where I'll just simply those three kinds of color, calendula. This is, I think this is Catalina Island fuchsia. That's another California native plant. This is black sage at the lower part of the screen. I just start to draw circles and start to fill out. Imagine one, this red came out pinkish purple. Sage is so much brown and green in it, deeper, lighter. So I'm just testing colors. And as we know, last year is also in this country and in the world, profound political turmoil, violence, murders, massacre, a very tragic time. Many people put flowers for the dead. So here's my expression, flower petals. That's about to scatter on the petals. So I collected them and put them together with some leaves that I pounded. Unfinished cases, I was thinking about all the people who passed away and the people that left behind. So I experimented with that. So this is the freestyle drawing with amaryllis. So here I made it into something like a lampshade. You can put a light in it. This is basically the green colors are the mint. and hibiscus. So here I folded into paper lanterns. And here is another thing during the same time when I just had two amaryllis flowers, both of them faded. So here, this is a structure that looks like an architectural row. You combine the sections together. So I use that flower to color some certain parts of the architecture, and nasturtium flower to add a different color to it. And I have also been experimenting with thread starting from last summer. This idea just came to me all of a sudden. As I told you, we are working on this artist books, and hand binding the book is one of our, tasks in order to realize the creation of the book. So one day, all of a sudden, I said, what if I also use these plants, flowers, leaves on thread? The thread that takes plant colors really well are made of natural fibers. I guess you could say this to an animal product, silk and wool, linen and cotton. So they work well. This is black sage leaf on a linen thread. This is the geranium flower, rose petals. And this I did this year. All of a sudden I said, oh, I have nasturtium. I've had them for a number of years. I just have never used it. Look at the magnificent yellow, radiant. So yeah, this could be either a rose or a geranium. And then in binding books, as I said, I just used this opal colored geranium flower. This is probably in the black sage. And also black walnut. You can buy them in stores, whole walnut powder that make a dark brown color for mixed media. So this is for one of the artist books. We are to do a book, to do a page of a book, starting with the first word on the dictionary. It says rained. So I did a variegated thread just to create it. The rain as memory, as remembrance. And this is a fabulous collage by Barbara Reyes, who took my workshop last December, and she sent me this collage that she created. And this is her bookmark, her thread, her leaf printing, her drawing circles. I love this. And this is one of the thread I used. These are geranium and black sage that I colored, some thread that I used to create patterns. And I know all of you probably are wondering, is the color going to last? Is it going to fade? Like I said earlier, some plants with tannic acid are going to return colors better. Others are going to fade and change over time. So maybe, we need to shift our thinking and think about everything changes. Change is the permanent thing. And just a different mindset. How are we doing time-wise?
We got 5 minutes, Jay.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about your second workshop on Thursday, which is another chance opportunity they can join?
Oh, yes, everyone. I just want to thank Miguel for creating this time, especially also his personal time, his dedication. He created a second workshop on Thursday, the 17th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. to accommodate people who couldn't attend during the noon hour or who'd like to return to show your work, to create work during the workshop. So you're welcome to return, welcome to share this information, and welcome back. And I know that Miguel and the Arboretum would be very eager to welcome all of you back in person when the Arboretum opens.
That's right. Thanks, Jay, and thank you, Jay. I'd like to thank Jay particularly because she has donated her time and effort and everything that you have seen here in order to support the Arboretum. She strongly supports the Arboretum, and that's one way to do it. And if you guys would like to also support the Arboretum, which we are in desperate need, please check out our website and help us with donations or anything you can help. We should be opening soon. We know we're working on an opening date, but we don't have that concrete. Let me see. We got some questions, Jay, and
Sure.
I'll turn it back to you.
Okay.
Wonderful workshop, Jay. It's a beautiful person. Thank you. Sure, Jay. You go, Jay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, one question is, how was the thread dyeing done?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, right, dying. Just like the plant. So
Eh,
here's my thread.
Jay, can you stop sharing your PowerPoint so we could see a bigger screen? There you go.
So I just thank you so much. We didn't even do that.
Hey, we
So
can do it
here's
on
my,
Thursday.
oh, that's right. Come back on Thursday.
Yeah.
Bring your own thread and plant
Yeah.
materials. So this is a piece of thread, right? So here, geranium flowers, again, it requires no heating. And also just take a look to see the flower petals. Is it thick? Is it waxy? Is it thin? This geranium flower is very thin. So it should be very easy to impart color. So what I do is I hold the flower, I just put my thread in between. I kind of rub. Can you see the color change?
Yes.
You'll see better this way. You see this?
Yeah.
So it's simple as that. But you'll see I also got geranium
Can you bring it
flower
closer
finger.
to the camera? The thread. There you go. Perfect. There you go.
Dark, rich purple. But my hand is also colored. So you can have a wet towel around you, a paper towel, if you know, don't want so much color on your hand. What about here? We have some. So here you can do a multicolored thread, or you can do one color thread. You have a big project. Immediately, I'm putting my things into my little compost bin there. Can you see the yellow?
Yeah.
May not be as striking, right? Yeah, because of lighting and all of that. But what about, this is only one of the petals from a red hibiscus flower. So again, just testing. And then you can use this for book binding, crocheting.
Jay, here's a question. What is a thread fiber? Is it cotton?
This is linen.
Okay.
I'm using linen because that's the strongest, seems to be the strongest thread for binding. To make books, you constantly have to bind. So I tend to, and also it has different thickness, thinner ones, thicker ones. So you have different purposes for different thickness. Thank
Okay,
you. Great question.
it's 12:59. Let me just say, here's another question. Will there be a link for the Thursday workshop? You just like you register for this workshop, you need to go to our website and register for the Thursday workshop. Um, there will this by the way, this is also being recorded, so eventually you'll get an email with a link to this recording. That's probably sometime next week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fabulous.
I think that's about it. I like to respect everyone's time. It's 1 o'clock. Jay, do you want to stay, or for those people who need to go, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, we'll meet on Thursday. What do you say, Jay?
Yeah, so if people have questions, we can linger for some time.
Okay.
And
And
again,
also,
thank you for coming and thank you to the Arboretum. I
yes.
know you're all great supporters of the Arboretum. Please continue to do all you can to support their educational programs. Their, I think, very innovative programming.
And also,
Their
if you have
collaboration are transforming students' lives. And
if you have any further questions for Jay or myself, please, you can also email me. You can find my contact information at Fullerton Arboretum website, or if you can write it down, mimacias at fullerton.edu. That's my email address. You can send me the questions there, and I'll be happy to send them to Jay if that needs. if we need to do that. All right. It looks like, let me check one more time, Jay.
Sure. Thank you so much, Miguel.
Says, thank you so much. Your prints and books are lovely.
Thank you.
And here's another one. Do you ever just press the flowers onto note cards?
Yes. Yeah, you can press. Yes, try it.
It says, thank you. Where do you purchase the thread?
The thread, you can purchase them at bookbinding stores. Petals in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, and Geranium Paper here in Culver City, Los Angeles, and also Lilanco. So Lilanco, Hollanders in Michigan, John Neal's bookbinding supplies. So there are a variety of supplies, even probably at Michael's and Joanne's, you can find linen thread. Blick Art, you can find binding materials. Yeah, there are specialty shops just for thread, bookbinding, paper related things, but then general art supply stores may also sell them. Thank you. That's a great question. Miguel, we need to put that on the handout next time.
Yeah, we should do that. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, Jay. I think we're set.
Okay.
I'll see you on Thursday.
All right. See you on Thursday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for coming. Have a good afternoon.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.